I mean, it always seems like Paul is always the common denominator, right? So at least in the Western hemisphere, Paul seems to be the most influential biblical character. So how could someone who received a natural revelation, whether it happened or not, that's not the point, but how can that override, right, a nation that received a national revelation to at least 1 million people? How could that one person's vision override that group of at least 1 million, and everyone just follows him?
I like you a lot. What's your name? That's a wonderful question. So the question is, Paul was in fact the most important convert to Christianity, and Christianity, as we know it today, is largely the religion of Paul, not the religion of Jesus, for sure. And the question is, how could he possibly be so successful? Okay, I'll explain it. There's a phenomena in history that when the Jews endure persecution, it triggers a lot of interest in Judaism. And we don't know why this is. But when the Jewish people were exiled and returned back from the Babylonian exile, tremendous amount of desire to convert to Judaism during the days of Ezra. In the first century, the number of converts to Judaism was growing exponentially in the empire. I mean, if you have emperors that elect a horse to the Senate, how religious can you be? Okay? One other point, we have to leave our world, and to study and appreciate history, we have to enter into another world. And the world that we're exploring is a world where there is only one monotheism, Judaism. The rest of the world was pagan. In that part of the world, most of the world was henotheistic. It's an iteration of paganism where there's a great god, and then there are lower tier gods all the way down to a god-man, someone who... Okay. Now, if Judaism is very attractive in the first century, and people are considering converting to Judaism, think very carefully, what might get in the way? I want to repeat that. If people are saying, oh, Judaism, I like that. It's pure religion, monotheistic, God, personal. But this is what's holding me back. What is most likely to make a potential convert to Judaism put the brakes on? What might that be? Number one, circumcision. That's why only about a third of converts are men. That might be the reason, I don't know. But there are far more women, okay. Circumcision, and what else? And ritual commandments, a little bit too much. Today it's very easy to keep kosher in a place like Dallas, I think, I'm not sure, I imagine so. You could just walk into Costco and walk out with a kosher salami, right? So, all right. So think about this for a moment. So Judaism, I like it. A one personal God you can pray to. In the Greco-Roman world, people did not pray to Jupiter. Jupiter was way too big. Nobody prayed to Zeus. Zeus was running the planets and making ladies pregnant. He had no time for you. People pray to lower tier gods. Okay. So Judaism, that there's a God who's omniscient and omnipotent. He's all knowing and all powerful, and he loves you and wants a relationship with you, is very attractive. And there's one that makes much sense. But what might get in the way is circumcision and keeping the commandments. Great. What happens if you come along and say, ladies and gentlemen, I know you're a little alone about this Judaism thing, but I have a version of this that's just right for you. Here's the deal. You get Judaism, but you don't have to get circumcised or keep any ritual commandments. Pow! So Paul delivered precisely what people want, not what God wanted. Paul produced an iteration of Judaism that had a little Neoplatonic ideas that were baked into it, but you don't have to get circumcised. Not only that, you should not get circumcised. Not only that, if you cut it off, why don't you just cut the whole thing off, Galatians 5 verse 12. And no one should tell you about keeping commandments, holidays, ritual. It's all those laws are just a shadow, and the essence is Christ. So what Paul was successful was he was able to take a younger, that means there was no doctrine of the Trinity yet. Paul did see Jesus as a divine being, but not God created the heavens and the earth. He saw in the Philippians 2, verse 6 through 11, that God was giving to Jesus something that Jesus did not harpagmos. He didn't take for himself equality, and therefore he was elevated by God, so he's not God. So you have a Neoplatonic understanding of God, which is very attractive. So Paul was delivering the drug. He was saying, here's Judaism and no circumcision, and in the body of Christ there's neither Jew nor Gentile, slave nor, we are all one in the body of Christ. I mean, that's how Galatians 3 ends. Galatians is the second most important letter in the writings of Paul. And the most important chapter is chapter 3. And the whole point of chapter 3 is that the covenant that comes through faith through Abraham supersedes the covenant that God made with Moses by 430 years. And after all, the law was only given by angels, which is like complete nonsense. But who was Paul's audience? Gentiles. The book of Galatians, written to people in modern-day Turkey. They knew nothing. They couldn't discern between chaff and wheat, genuine hermeneutics and Bible tampering, and they bought it. And Paul becomes the ultimate, most successful missionary to the Roman Empire. Matthew is the failure, because Matthew is trying to convince Jews of this. They just go, holy smokes, you made that stuff all up. So what Paul did was he delivered the basic Judaism idea, one God, monotheism, and he rages about monotheism all over the place, including Romans chapter 1, where he's saying that pagans really know the truth. So he's very strong on monotheism, especially to the church in Rome. And he's saying, but you don't have to keep the commandments, and Jews don't have to keep it either. A lot of people think, because I don't know, they're not reading it, that Paul is only saying this to non-Jews. He's not, he's speaking to Jews. Romans 7 is an address to his brethren, fellow Jewish people. They don't have to keep the law either. So how could Paul not succeed? He had the perfect drug. It's just perfect. Like Judaism without the problem. It's like, hello, you're done. That's why he succeeded.